Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for being here with us. Welcome to our program, Consciousness in Evolution. My name is Anna Yogan. I am here representing Reaprendentia International, a conscientiocentric institution dedicated to re-education. You can find our page, Reaprendentia International, at YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Today, we are going to have a very special guest, Professor Marlon Muraro. Um, we are going to talk how does culture affect the expression of evolutionary intelligence. So evolutionary intelligence refers to the set of cognitive abilities that enable humans to solve problems, make decisions, adapt to changing environments, and while these abilities have biological roots, their expression is profoundly influenced by culture. So, culture shapes the way we think, reason, and approach challenges by providing a framework of principles, values, and beliefs, and social norms. Here, Professor Marlon has a history of being a road traveler, and he's a CELTA-certified language instructor and also business coach with 15 years of international experience. He is a Conscienciology instructor since 2015, and he has coordinated international teams and classes at Reaprendentia since 2016. Welcome to our program, and he's going to answer to several questions. Feel free, because he has a lot of experience, and we are going to dig deeper into whatever he has to say.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anna, for the introduction. Culture, it's part of, I don't know, my DNA for sure. It's an area of life where I really like to do research on, and I've been abroad. I've been living abroad in 5, 6 different countries in the last 16 years. So it really changes my, perspective, my way of view things. It changes my connection to people. And now I've been working on with cultural intelligence as well, developing culture, helping others develop cultural intelligence when moving abroad, when going to live in a different country. So this has been my work in the last three to 4 years now. And teaching languages, right? I always say that when we teach a language, it's hard to just teach the language and not teach the culture as well, right? So when you want to learn a language, it's often, better that you also learn the culture, understand the norms, and through language, we can get a lot of the values of the culture. We can understand people's behavior also through language. So it's a pleasure to be here discussing these ideas. Thank you again for inviting me for this live. And when we start chatting, I remember that a lot of the ideas crossed our minds about culture. But today, I think we want to bring culture and look at the interactions that culture can have with evolution, with consciousness evolution, with evolution intelligence, and where do they meet? Where do they go away? How is this conversation between conscienciology and culture? And maybe we can continue to expand a bit more our understanding of culture, our understanding of evolutionary intelligence, and see how one can support the other, and see some points of attention for us to think in our journey, in our personal evolution as well. Um, so to start, I really would like to define a bit of what is culture, because there's many definitions of culture. People can use culture to define refinement. People can use culture, the word, to refine to taste, or like if you like classical music, or if you see art, that's Some cultures can use the word culture to refer to that. We're taking a broader understanding of culture, right? As Anna said, mentioned in the beginning, culture as a framework. So, what we use culture here today is this framework for understanding shared behavior, shared norms, shared values, shared assumptions, all of this that we have in our day to day and that we experience in life. Anna, come on, come back. I want to ask you a question before I go into the
Okay, I'm here.
let me ask you a question, Anna. What did you have for breakfast today?
Today I had coffee and some yogurt with fruit.
Does that have anything to do with culture?
Definitely. I am originally Brazilian, and so is Marlon. And I lived here in the US for the last 16 years. And while I was in Brazil, I used to take my coffee very strong, like almost espresso. And here I got accustomed to the diluted coffee. It's almost like a tea. We tell in Brazil that's almost like a tea. And it has the taste of the coffee, but it's not so strong.
Thank you, Anna. And it's interesting that you say coffee, yogurt, and fruit, but why didn't you have any salad? Or why didn't you have a bowl of noodles in your breakfast?
Well, this belongs to lunch or dinner.
Or dinner, right? Because, and we see from this very simple question and this very simple behavior, what we eat, our preferences will be culture dictated. So there's a lot of culture embedded in our preferences and what we like and what we dislike. So, and then we can think about having, a bowl of rice, some miso soup, and fish for breakfast.
Well, when I went to China, that's what they presented us with. But it was kind of very strange for me because they have like this salty soup for breakfast and they have a sweet soup for dinner. And I'm like, well, there's something wrong here. this, this doesn't really match. But yes, when you are in another country, you also are open to other experiences. So I tried. I did try, but it felt kind of very strange.
It takes sometimes to get us in the mood, right? In a way.
Mhm.
Yeah. So in this model that we see here, the iceberg model, what we often we use this model often to talk about culture. We use this model often to talk about interpretations of the mind and the frameworks of the mind. What we see in this division of the iceberg is that the part that is on top of the iceberg, the more visible part, the what in this representation here, right? So the what that we see here, this is the visual part of culture. This is what we see, what we can perceive with our five senses, right? What the food that we smell and taste, the music that we listen, what we see of architecture, how people dress. So this is very observable. This is very explicit. It's clear when you see it in other people's. And when you travel, it's very common that you travel to see those differences. But culture is much more than that, and culture will shape our behavior, culture will shape our values, culture will shape our expectations. And this is the more intangible part of culture, and this takes time to understand, and this takes time to connect with, right? Because this is part that is below, it's hidden from the everyday life in a way, right? So how, the things that are important for us, right? Waking up in the morning and have a large cup of coffee, with milk, without milk, right? That is very visible. but it also has a why in our assumptions, that we assume that that is the right way, that we assume that that is the right way to do things and have things and expect, right? When we meet someone new for the first time, how do we greet them? Do we shake hands? Do we hug? Do we, kiss on the cheek? Or do we bow? Or do we make a sign with our hands and bow? There are many possibilities, right? There are many possibilities, but culture is the one shared element, the one shared framework that we have that will group us, that will tell us I belong. So if for me is natural that I shake hands and I meet someone from my culture, for the other person is also natural to shake hands, we connect. We connect, and it's very easy to connect, right? But when I meet someone and I extend my hand to shake and the other person bows in front of me, how do I connect? Because those are very different approaches to greeting, right? And those are very rooted in past, in how the formation of this iceberg, what happened in the history of this country. And all of that becomes our attitudes, our beliefs, our norms, and it is also subconscious. Right? So the way we are brought up, the way that our parents told us this is right, this is what you should do, this is what you must do. The way our teachers in school said you must do this, you shouldn't do that, and the way we complete and we share this behavior with our colleagues, all of this, that is the underlying of the iceberg part of culture, this generates the sense of belonging. So that's why when we interact with people from our culture, we immediately connect, right? It's easier to connect. And we feel, seen, we feel recognized, and this is becomes subconscious to the point that it alters our brains. So we have new studies in culture, in multiculturalism, saying that cultures also alters the brain and alters how we, the structures and the synapses and the function of the brain will also change in according to culture. So that's to say that culture is very strong, right? It's very strong, and it's a framework that help us navigate through life, help us to share common values with others, help us to be part of a group, and help us tackle, issues in life with a very specific set of values there. But because it's so embedded in us, there's always this phrase from Edward T. Hall that I think is a very great phrase to show this, right? So he says that culture hides more than it reveals. So talking again about the iceberg, the upper part of the iceberg, the lower part of the iceberg. Strangely enough, what it hides most effectively from its own participants. So the cultural process, the cultural framework, we are often so immersed in this culture that we assume most of the time that is the right way or the norm or the shared value with others. So everybody should behave in a certain way because that's how we do in our group, in our culture. So it hides most effectively from ourselves, from our own perception of our culture.
I'd like to bring a point here, Marlon. We have this golden rule where we should kind of behave the way we expect them to behave with us. But most often in culture, it doesn't work like that, right?
Exactly.
Because the other person has very different references and values that actually to expect them to behave the way we are behaving with them has no true at all, and it doesn't really work, right?
Absolutely, and absolutely. I remember coming to Brazil after 2 years living in Thailand, and after pandemic. So a moment where we people were not really getting together or close or sharing or touching each other. And then, and especially in Thai culture, where you never touch anyone, right? There's this separation, clear separation, unless you're really, really friends with someone. But other than that, when you meet some stranger, you don't shake hands, you're not close to the person. And I was so shocked in Brazil because coming to Brazil after 2 years, and then we were, in Sao Paulo, visiting apartments, and we were meeting people. And the first thing that they did is that they extend their hands,
Mhm.
and my mind was immediately like, "You, I don't want to touch your hand." This was like my attitude first. I was like,
Like,
"Oh,
where did you put this hand?
yeah. Like, did you wash it? We just had the pandemic. So, I mean, you had to wash your hands, right? And it felt, for me, it felt so absurd that I had to touch someone else's hand and shake it. And, it was just absurd. I didn't want to do that. And it felt like you, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
the idea of the golden rule, very present in many religions, very present in many, the base of many philosophies, that you do to others, you do unto others as you would like done to yourself. There's a very critical flaw, especially when we go into multiculturalism, and is all about the reference. Because the golden rule, the reference for the golden rule is myself. I will do to others as I would like. But this works when we share common values.
Hmm.
This will not work when I don't share common values. So when we talk about universalism, when we talk about multiculturalism, when we talk about interacting with other cultures and people from other cultures and consciousness from other cultures, my set of values might not be the set of values of the others. So how will I, do the same to others as I would like? Right. In this, very simple example of the shaking the hands. So very important for some people, very important for Brazilians, where you connect and you shake, and for Latin culture as well, very important that you shake hands and you touch the other hand. Very not important for Asian cultures. And I can create miscommunications just by, doing that. Coming close and giving a kiss on the cheek.
Hmm.
Right. So the golden rule here for universalism doesn't really apply because the reference is myself. So is a bit of a narcissistic rule in a way, because the point of reference lies within me. One way that we can, better use the multiculturalism and universalism is what is important to the other. So what is important to my counterpart? What is important to the person that I'm meeting, that I'm interacting with? And then I need to know as well what is important for them. Because if for them the shaking the hands is not something good, and I go immediately and offer my hand to shake hands, and how will that be perceived, right? And this is just a simple idea, right? But when we go more to deeper values of connection, of how I understand myself, of what is really important for me in exchanging with other people, then a bit of a research there, right? A bit of a research in what is important to others, what is important to the other person, and how can we bridge this gap? Because there's a gap in multiculturalism, right? But how do we bridge it, right? What are the shared values? We might find some shared values. The expression of the shared values might be different, but we might find it, the shared values. So we can always lead with that and see how we can, again, connect with others, understanding what is important for both of the parties, not just one, but both of the parties. But we are here also to talk about evolutionary intelligence. And this is another concept from Conscienciology, that the idea of evolutionary intelligence is that we apply our understanding of the principle of cosmic evolution to our self-evolution and to the intellectual evolution, intuitive evolution, maximum evolutionary potential. So to reach that is when we apply our evolutionary intelligence, right? So again, evolutionary intelligence, we apply our understanding of the evolution of the consciousness. When we talk about evolution of the consciousness, we're talking about multiple lives, a series of multiple lives. We're talking about developing beyond, karma. We talk about ego karma, group karma, polykarma. We're talking about developing our multiple vehicles of manifestation, understanding and managing and living with them. So our physical body, our soma, our psychosoma, our emotional body, our mental soma, our mental body, and understanding these dynamics of the evolution and how do I apply this in my everyday life. Anna, would you like to complement anything on evolutionary intelligence?
I think you pretty much covered it, but let's talk a little bit about conscienciology. It has a kind of unique perspective on consciousness because it's more than the physical brain. So how might differences in terms of cultural beliefs, in terms of how you view yourself and you view your reality, would either hinder or support the individual exploration of these broader concepts?
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And then if we add in the cultural fact, right? How is my understanding of the self? Right? And this is the point that we were discussing to bring in this presentation. And I do have a short video that I would like to share. And maybe we can, Anna, you can help me, and then we have a bit of a chat about this video from Maya Angelou. What do you think, Anna?
Yes, I agree.
Right. So let's go.
I believe that self-love is very important. If you read my work, you know I'm always talking about loving oneself. I never trust anybody who tells me he or she loves me if the person doesn't love herself or himself. There's an African saying which is, be careful when a naked person offers you a shirt. I mean, if he had something, he'd cover himself first, right? So I like to look at self-love. It is very important that it comes from within, that you have a sense of yourself, so that when you walk into an office, you don't go alone. Bring your people with you. Bring everybody who has loved you with you. Say, Grandma, come on, let's go. Great-grandpa, you've been dead all this time. Come on, let's go. I have to go in here and have an interview. Come on, Auntie. Come on, my friends. Come, let's go. And when you walk in, people don't know what it is about you. They can't take their eyes off you. You may not be cute in the given sense. You may not be fashion model size in that particular sense. You may not be any of those things, but they can't take their eyes off you. And they say of you, in this incredible way, which I don't understand. They say, I don't know, but she has charisma. No, what you have is all those people around you. So think of that. Anytime you have anything to do, bring everybody with you that you can remember who has loved you. And then you have that sense of having been paid for. And when you walk in, people will say, now, I think you're overqualified.
So let's unpack some ideas here, right? One thing that I was telling Anna, this video calls my attention when we were talking about culture, because here you have the scenario, right? So we can look different, right? We can look at the person who's speaking, we can look at the ideas, we can look at the scenario. And the main idea for me, looking through the cultural perspective, is what's the understanding of the self, right? Because we have societies that will understand and will favor and will have its extremely importance on the self, the individual. And we have other societies where the individual exists, but the individual exists because of other people, because of the group. And I exist because I am a part of a group. So here we have Maya Angelou, addressing, having her speech for a group of undergraduates there in the ceremony. And so we have this contrast, right? If we look at, a more American approach sometimes that is very much focused on the individual. And she's bringing the more Asian approach that we are because of others, that we exist because of others, we exist because we're a part of a group. And in her speech, she addresses and combines those two realities, right? To say that once you see yourself as well as part of a group, you will have more confidence, you feel bigger, and you have more. And in contrast, you have other people that only see the self and understand the self, and how the interactions. Anna, what do you
What
think
comes
of
to my
that?
mind is like living in the US for quite a while. I know that one of the values of the culture is egalitarianism.
Mhm.
And I don't believe there is a way of, reaching equality or reaching inclusivity or reaching, uh, a better society without having this interconnectedness. And this is very known in the Western cultures, but it's not valued in the American culture. So this brings the questions about why we still have so much biases, why do we still have so much prejudice, and why our society is still very separated. So there you
Absolutely.
go.
Absolutely. Because we do have bias. It's part. It's part of us. It's part of the way we are immersed in our culture, and we will see our culture as better. Right? This is to talk about ethnocentrism, where the only thing that I recognize as right or good or best is my culture. It's my upbringing, is the things that are familiar to me. But that's the thing, right? It's only good for you because it's familiar to you. And that's part of your bias. So when we want to connect with other people, we will have to think about empathy, right? And here's the thing. So you can do a very simple test with yourself, right? We in Conscienciology, we always talk about the disbelief principle and how, have your own experiences and go out and practice. So go out to a group gathering and, notice once you enter a room with people that you don't know, a different environment, different people, where do you go? Which people do you go to talk to? Right? Because very often we have our own bias and we develop empathy with our own bias. And we say, oh, I enter the room, I look around the people, and I will go and talk with that people that resembles the people that I know. And this will be often the case for most people that will look, for my case, for example, white person with, some blonde hair or something, because that remembers my mother, that resembles my auntie. So I will go and I'll talk to them, right? Because I have this innate idea in myself that I can connect easier because we share the same values. That is bias. That is bias. Sorry, Anna, you're muted. Tell me.
Sorry, there is another question there because most of the times the biases they are taught. If you put a lot of children together and they go to school, they are not going to prefer anybody else that really resemble them. They go and they talk and they play with everybody that's there.
Until a certain age.
Yes, and then they learn. Yeah.
And then they learn. And then as they learn, we also learned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to have this awareness that the bias, the connection, the things that I tell myself are good, right, truth, important, they were also taught to me. Right? We had this upbringing, we share this with other people. So this is very important to understand that to generate empathy with other people, I have to, want it. I have to go out and look and enter these rooms and, look for the most different person for my standards or for me and say, let's see how much I can connect with this person, and go out and chat and discover things in common and share. But that will come, with a little feeling that we were talking before that Anna mentioned, right? That at first it feels weird. It feels weird. It feels weird that I'm having breakfast and I'm eating fish and drinking miso soup. It feels weird that I'm eating salad and some noodles for breakfast. It feels weird. It feels weird that I'm talking to somebody and connecting with someone that doesn't, we might not share values in the end. But I can generate empathy. I can have that. But the underlying of all this process is self-knowledge. You have to do the research on yourself, understanding of your bias, understanding of your cultural values that you share, understanding how much of your own culture impacts on your decisions. And this is the bridge that we're trying to bring here today, right? So how much of my culture is directing my evolution? Because it's directing my understanding, is directing my where I'm focusing my resources, is understanding it's moving and changing how I apply my evolutionary intelligence. And those are the bits that are really important for us to think about here. Anna, do we have any questions to talk about?
I do have a question for you. In terms of culture, let's say that the two things, which are the thoughts, the sentiments, and energies, they are prevalent in a culture. So that group of people, they have like a powerful influence on a individual consciousness. So can you explain how these dominant scenes of this society might impact a person's journey towards consciousness evolution?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when we think of those scenes, right, we're talking about uh, thoughts, sentiments, and energies. And in this image, we can kind of think, right, of this shared those scenes or this shared, water in this aquarium that we are part of, and understand that they're strong. They're strong because we've been taught also to follow accordingly, right? And we share this with other people, or in this aquarium, we share this with other fish as well. So one way that we can look is maybe exploring other aquariums, maybe exploring other possibilities, maybe exploring other those scenes. And so we're so fortunate that in this day and age we have internet and computers and a browser and a link, and we can do an incredible research that we don't even need to move and live abroad, but we can do our research and we can go and find and understand and connect. We can even chat with people from other countries from our homes, and this is amazing.
I'd like
But this
to
is
bring
the
a
way
point
of.
here, Marlon. In this slide, you can see that you are the different fish. All the other fish are the same, and you are a little greenish, a little red, and you are different. And I kind of remember that feature related to my childhood, because I was kind of the one outside of the box. I kind of didn't belong. I didn't look like my parents. And that made me feel like the ugly duck. And that also motivated myself to become more open to new experiences and to explore other aquariums. So what do you think about this idea?
Again, I'll go back to the disbelief principle, right? Because we're talking broadly about culture, but a lot of people will report that. We report that, oh, but I don't belong to my culture, or it feels weird in my own culture. And that's pretty normal. That's pretty normal that we see that, even though in a deeper level there are shared values and you communicate easier within your culture. You communicate your values and you understand others' values easier within your culture, that's for sure. Even though we might feel like the odd one out, right, the one that doesn't fit in. And when we go to the disbelief principle, right, it can be also a tool to reinforce those sanity, this thinking and feeling and the energies that we have, that reinforces maybe one necessity that is outside of the aquarium. So let's think of an example, right? If we grow up in a culture where the understanding of life after death is, non-existent. So we grew up in a culture where people will think that you die and that's it, and there's nothing after, there's no evolution, finish, end of line. But through some experiences, you have to yourself the proof that life goes on, that you have a multiple, vehicle manifestation, that you can access other dimensions, that you meet with people that passed, way before you, and you have, chats with these people. So how do you conciliate both in this scenario? Because you have the water, or the scene of the nation or the culture, Okay, life ends with death and that's it. But I have my personal experiences that tell me otherwise. How much of that, with my personal experiences and applying the disbelief principle, can, help me sustain my own experiences and say, you know what, sure, this is part of the group. They think that way. Maybe I used to believe that. Maybe I, from the beginning, I didn't believe that, but maybe I used to believe in that too. But now I have a different experiences. Now I see more and I have a different approach. And it becomes more important to me as well. So we are reinforcing our personal routines via experience, via something very practical, via something that, the experience, the practicality that tells me what it is. Does that make sense, Anna? What do you think?
Definitely. And we also have another question now. It comes from Leona. She's asking how that evolution is influenced by being a citizen of more than one culture. That's a
Yeah,
good question.
that's an excellent question. Thank you so much, Dr. Leona. So, one thing that we were talking about to bring is the idea of openness. So, we are here talking about evolutionary intelligence. We're applying our resources towards our evolution and evolution of the group. And how much are we actually open to see the different paths of evolution of different people? Mm. Because some people might reach evolution with a clear line. Some people might have a curved line to reach the point, and some people will have many ways and many deviations before going and reaching a place. But how open I am, how really open I am towards other people's experiences. When we grow up, being this citizen, from more than one culture, what we see is that you already have an openness to different approaches because you are more exposed and you are in contact with different approaches more often and since upbringing, right? So when you take a child and move a child outside of the parents' culture or the grandparents' culture, and the child experiences other approaches, other values, other ideas, it also becomes part of that. So that is the place that we call the third culture. That is not the host, it's not the host culture totally, and it's not the home culture totally. It's a mix. So we see people that are already more open to the contact with different cultures. So I hope that helped, I hope that answer your question. I don't know, Anna, if you want to compliment a little. And then please let us know if you have any other questions as well.
Yeah, I believe that it can help or it can also limit the experience because it will also depend on the circumstances of life that the person is going through. Anyways, I think being exposed to all the cultures is absolutely great. For instance, I wouldn't have married my husband if he wasn't a pilot that has traveled so many places in the world and that had so many different experiences as a person. Because if he had only the typical American behaviors and values and things like that, I think we wouldn't have connected. So in that point, I think, yes, it's great, it's positive. And there is also the other side of the situation, which is like sometimes the person becomes even more attached to their own culture whenever they are exposed to others because they kind of feel afraid of losing themselves in other cultures, right? Because one of the parts that that hidden part of the iceberg tells you is also the concept of sanity. And it has a lot to do with how much opened you are to situations of uncertainty. And living with situations that are just certain is going to make you attached to permanent truths, to dogmas, and to things that are going to limit your perspective. Am I right or wrong? What do you think?
I agree. No, I absolutely agree. I'm thinking here that, a physical threat or a non-physical threat, our brain will interpret the same ways, right? So if it's a cognitive threat that, I'm being challenged because I don't have my way of, saying hi to people, and I don't have my breakfast in this place, and so all of those ideas will we will interpret that as also a threat, and we will respond. We will know our body will try to respond, and we will go for the things that are very not the things that we are comfortable with, and we'll go back to the things that we're comfortable with, that we know. And this can reinforce our own cultural bias again, and we can go back and say, no, the best way to do coffee is the Brazilian way. And then and then we go back, and this reinforces. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, openness depends on feelings of safe and secure, for sure, for sure. But also, how much are we open to experience something new? And this can also varies from culture to culture, as Anna said, about the cultures that how as a culture, how as a society we view change. Do we view change as something that will, propel us? Or do we view change as something that will be, complicated, crazy, so we don't act or we don't seek change? And those two are very different approaches, but your culture will also influence how you view change and how tolerant you are towards change, right? So we have companies, for example, that launch a product and put it in the market, and then, let people talk about it. And then we fix it. And then we organize it. And then we correct it. But we have other companies that will spend years and years in the laboratory developing the best and the premium services and the premium equipment. So then they can launch to the public. So those two are very different approaches, and those are rooted in how secure we are and how we manage change. But the thing is, we live in this multifaceted world, and we are talking about conscienciology, and we're talking about managing a lot of uncertainties in conscienciology, right? We're talking about developing your energy management, developing your secure in your energy management. We're talking about living your body with lucidity, and then traveling to other places with lucidity. We're talking about getting connect, with other consciousness. So that is also a lot of uncertainty in that ambient. And how are we managing that? Right? What are the things that are telling us, it's good, you can do it, go ahead, and how much open we are to have different experiences. Because, we have to see it as well, how open we are to understand that other consciousness are also right within their own cultural bias, understanding that we have our own cultural bias and we will have our preferences as well, and we are immersed in this aquarium. And we were thinking, I was thinking maybe for us to be kind of closing, I know we're getting to the hour here. So for us to be able to view, review, update, or recycle, as I have the big symbol here for recycling, right? Our own set of values, this means that, we are able to better connect with anyone, with any consciousness. Doesn't matter the dimension, doesn't matter which, vehicle manifestation I'm using. Doesn't matter which time and period that we are meeting, because we are constantly working on, viewing, reviewing, updating our own set of values. We understand that this is part of the culture. We understand that this is part of, a moment in time that we have. And this will help us for sure connect with other consciousness as well.
So, Marlon, Conscienciology kind of emphasizes the importance of the multicultural self-experience and also the cultural openness in terms of the evolution of the consciousness. So, what would you say are practical tips that someone could take to cultivate these qualities, and what are the potential benefits for their personal growth?
I will bring a lesson from, language learning here. And I say, it all boils down to exposure. So how much you are, exposed to other cultures, how much, you eat other food, how much you listen to other musics, how much you, watch documentaries, talk and connect with other people. Those ways will show to us that, probably our Aquarian was a lot smaller than what we think. Because, as some very famous people said, right, once the mind stretches and open, it's very hard, right, to go back. So exposure is key. Exposure is key. And then again, we are in the best, time and age to see videos from, other countries, other part of the world, connect and talk with other people, and, read from other cultures and other authors, understanding history as well, what goes into the formation of these cultures. Because when we look at the formation of a culture, we will also understand the whys or the hows, right? Why is happening this way? How is happening this? And it makes sense for a lot of the things that we thought it didn't make sense. But once we look at the history, the formation of this culture, it helps us to connect. And potential benefits, I don't know, more. I mean, connecting with others, connectivity, and being, open and cultural openness, challenging ourselves. I think that is a good benefit, that we challenge ourselves. These will help us to, eliminate bias, prejudices, it helps us develop cognitive flexibility. So, when we look at other people's ways of seeing the world and interpreting reality, it challenges our view and challenges our way of interpreting, of understanding reality. So again, cognitive flexibility, openness, it all helps us, because again, we're talking about evolutionary intelligence, and evolutionary intelligence again is growing, right? It's about evolving, understanding more and more.
I could add to this idea, because I think here is our original culture when you are in this smaller aquarium. We go to other countries and you expose yourself to other types of ideas and cultures, people, and so on. And when you expose yourself to conscienciology, you admit the presence of other worlds, other intelligence, and so on. So it's like you jump from a big aquarium to the sea, because there is a complete open sea for you to know and for you to explore, and that is going to give you so much personal growth, because you are going to go through situations that you never expected to. I mean, like once you expose yourself not only to different cultures, but also to the extra physical world, it's like a big step. You know, it's like what you think it's right goes beyond, because there are so many other levels of comprehension, levels of, let's say, respect, levels of fraternity that you are going to be able to experience. And this just
Cosmoethics.
happens with your openness,
Yeah,
right?
we thought about cosmoethics, right? How do I
Definitely.
expand my understanding of ethics to other consciousness? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the ocean. So, what is my intention there? You know?
And what is limiting you for towards this possibility, right?
Yeah.
Is it because I think it's wrong? Is because I need certainty in certain parts of my life? Or is it because I have some type of bias towards that the people that explore other realities? I think they might be a little bit crazy. I mean, like there are so many possibilities here, but the fact that you are able to explore it by yourself and have yourself experience, I think this is the great step, right?
Absolutely. I also think about the intention, right? So, what's my
Right.
intention doing that, right? And intention is often key. And what's my objective? So, when we go to all of these, let's say, non-secure places, because we don't know, right? We don't know what's going to happen for sure. We don't have a track of what's going to happen. So let's go with curiosity. Let's go with the open mindset about what can I learn, and
Definitely.
what will and how, maybe we can think of, even, right, how will this experience change me, and how will that change me and change the world and change my perspective, and then connect.
And would you say that this is part of the concept of hollow maturity? Because it's like a state of integrated and balanced consciousness. How might both immersing oneself in diverse cultures and strategically detaching for some cultural norms would benefit or detract you from achieving this state?
Well, we're talking about developing cultural or holomaturity, right? And then the whole thing boils down to how much I know myself. One thing that happens very often is that when we contrast other cultures, we are learning a lot about ourselves. That's the right, what it happens in the end, right? And I'm pretty sure, and then when you move to the US, you learn about the Brazilian culture much more than you learn about the US culture.
Oh my God. It's a whole trip.
So, and those challenges also, helps us develop maturity, because in the end we know that we are uh we're developing, and we're connecting, and we're understanding much more than just the common and the safe aquarium of our culture. So exposure plays a big role, of course. We're developing whole maturity, of course, because we're growing and seeing different beliefs, going beyond our limited beliefs, much often imposed by our culture. So absolutely, yeah, we are developing hollow maturity for sure. Yeah.
And I would say like a very important thing is like permitting yourself to commit mistakes, because mistakes are part of learning. And another thing, are you going to feel good about it 100%? No, you are going to get frustrated about a lot of things. We both know living in a different culture has those perks. And but the possibility of being open, the possibility of learning others and connecting to others, it's way, way, way better, and it supplants anything that you get frustrated with, right?
And balancing out, right? Balancing out, exposure with comfort as well. So we know that, we are good managing these exchanges. We're good managing this process of interaction. Um, I think that's it. We had the time for. I think we're on the clock for 1 hour here, right, Anna?
Yes, we
And
are in time, and it's raining here, so I lost my connection to the internet. I'm sorry about it. So I'd like to thank everybody for being with us today. And on April 18th, we are going to have Professor Marcelo Silva here sharing his experience about mega fraternity. It's going to be an event in Portuguese with a simultaneous translation into English. So we expect that you guys will enjoy as well. Thank you, Marlon, for being here with me. And thank you all for being with us.
thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much, Reaprendentia, for the invite. And let's lead with compassion. Let's connect with others. Let's develop this empathy towards the world and connecting with people outside of our comfort zone. Yes, outside of our cultural bias, outside of the things that we think are right or wrong, but connecting with other understanding through others people, others perspective. And I'm pretty sure it will be an amazing journey. So thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have other questions, please, you can write the questions and we'll be sure to answer them at some point. So thank you so much. Bye bye.